Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim Ekshaw.
It's thelmaquilts.com.
And in today's tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to assemble your leather strap tote bag. So this bag, I finished the outer part of the bag and I've squared up the corners. Look at that, isn't that pretty? So this is what it looks like before we do that. So this is the liner, and I was quickly going to show you what I meant by boxed corners, okay? So what I have done is I've taken a ruler and I've squared out. I literally took this ruler, put it on my liner, and you'll do exactly the same thing with the outer portion of the bag. And you're going to draw out a 2" by 2" square on both sides of the bottom of your bag. And while you're doing this, you've pinned it all, and then you're going to sew down both sides of the bag and across the bottom. And then what you're going to do is you're going to open up where we have made that notch, that 2" square, and you're going to line up these seams. Do you see that? And then you're literally going to, and with a 1/4 inch, I always use a 1/4 inch seam regardless, unless it's a top stitch, and then I can use like a 1/4 or an 1/8 of an inch. But anyway, so 1/4 inch, and you're just going to sew that and close that hole. And then it will look like this, right? So this is the inside of the bag. I'm going to quickly flip it so you have a visual. So I want to make sure. I'm a visual learner too, so I understand where you want to see everything. It's really nice. So on that outer bag, this is what it looks like. So remember, you're not quilting the liner, okay? So you're only quilting the top of the bag and the batting. And I have separate tutorials for how to quilt, so go check those out as well. But anyway, so we are finished the outer portion of the bag. And now I'm just going to take this liner over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew these gaps at the bottom of the bag closed. These are called boxed corners, and these are called notches when we cut it. Okay, so I will be right back and I will show you what that looks like. All right, so I've boxed up the corners for the bottom of the bag here. So we are not going to turn, so this is another thing I wanted to mention. You're going to want to have the outer bag right sides facing out. So this is the right side of the bag, the pretty side. And then for the liner, we're going to keep the wrong side facing us. So this is a wrong side because we can see the seams, right? So what we're going to do now, actually before I get carried away and mention that, what I also wanted to mention is the importance of squaring up your panels. So this is a quilted panel, right? Usually this will have like a quilt design on it, but I really wanted to make this just a really pretty denim. But sometimes you'll see like a quilted, sawtooth or something like that. Anyway, so the reason why, and if you are brand new, those measurements are quite a bit bigger is because we need to square them up. When you quilt something, it can distort it a little bit and actually shrink it a little bit when you quilt a panel. So that's why we want the overage, and that's why we want to square up our quilted panels after we quilt it, not before. So once it is squared up, you want to make sure that your panels match your liner. Otherwise, you're going to have a miscommunication inside of the bag when you go to sew it all in. So it's really important that your liner pieces, and your quilted panels are exactly the same size. So what I recommend is I wouldn't even cut the liner until after you quilted, because sometimes you can square up your block too much. I mean, it happens to the best of us, right? So what I like to do when I'm making bags is I will square up my quilted panels before I cut my liner, because then I know that it's all going to match up really good. So that's another tip that I wanted to share. What we want to do is we want to completely finish the bag and then add the straps after. And in order to finish the bag, what we're going to do is make sure that the quilted outer exterior part of the bag is facing right side to us, right? So the pretty bag is facing us, right? And then we want to make sure that the liner is wrong side facing us, like we can see the seams. And what you want to do next is we want to take this bag and put this bag inside of the liner. I know it feels backwards, but it's not. So we want right sides facing each other, and that's what happens when we put the bag inside, right side bag, wrong side liner. And we're just gonna slip it in there like so, okay? I know this is where I lose some people, so don't worry, it's okay. Just go slow and you'll be fine. Okay, so now what we wanna do, now that the bag is in there, we wanna take and match up our side seams like so. And quilting clips work actually really good for this, but I forgot to grab mine. So I'm going to pin it, but we want to make sure that these seams, the side seams, match up perfectly. And I forgot my pins too. I'll be right back. All right, so I've grabbed my quilting clips here, and I'm going to make sure that these side seams get clipped first. And what I like to do, because sometimes they can slip off, I find, is just I'm going to clip it on both sides of this seam for extra security. And then I'm going to go and do the other side first. Don't clip around because it won't be even, trust me. So you're going to clip your seams, align those seams perfectly first before we do any of the rest of the bag. And again, we're going to clip on either side of that, both sides of that seam, because we want to make sure that it holds really good. Okay, so now that those are clipped like that, we're just going to pull the bag open like this, and then we're going to clip the middle section here. And sometimes you kind of have to maneuver it a little bit, so we're going to do that again, just to make sure that we have it perfect. There we go. And we're going to align that. And I used plaid, like a flannel, for my liner. I don't recommend that if you're a beginner, because flannel can be a little tricky to work with. So yeah. Okay. And as always, please, if you have a question about the pattern, reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you. In fact, when I get questions about different techniques and stuff, chances are I will make a tutorial video just for you and post it on YouTube. So, I mean, I love helping. So definitely reach out. Okay, and we're just going to continue clipping around in between the center clips that we have put in. You don't need a ton, but if you feel like you want to clip all the way around, then have at it. Clip as much as you want. It's about your comfort level. All right, so you know what we forgot to do? I forgot to leave a gap in the bottom of the liner, which is really important. So because I'm such in a hurry trying to teach this, I'm going to stitch rip a gap in the lining, you know, anywhere from 6 to 8 inches wide in the lining, because you want a hole, you want a gap in the lining, because what we're going to do after we sew all the way around the top, we're going to pull the bag right side out through the gap in the lining. So yeah, I totally forgot about that, and you know what, it happens, it's fine, accept that it's okay and just move on. So I'm just going to stitch rip that, and then we can pull the bag in. But anyway, so now that we have our clips on the top here, we're going to sew all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam all the way around the bag. And you don't have to leave a gap at the back at the top there, because we were supposed to leave a gap at the bottom of the lining. So I'm just going to stitch rip that, like I said, and that's where we're going to turn the bag right side out. All right, so we have sewn this closed at the top, and now we are ready to turn our bag right side out, which is very exciting. So remember, I had to stitch with this because I totally forgot. But what you want to do is make sure that your liner at the very bottom has a gap in it in between 6 and 8 inches wide, so you can turn your bag. Okay, so now it's ready for the exciting part. So we're going to turn the bag. We're going to pull it through that gap in the bottom. Ooh, I get so excited about this part. Oh, look at that. Oh, so pretty. Okay, so what you want to do is pop those corners. You can do it with your fingers. Chopstick works really, really good for this. So I keep extra chopsticks around, and I will pop the corners with those occasionally too, and it works really good. So look at that. Look how pretty that is. Okay, so now we're ready to put the liner in, but before we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom of the liner and just fold it over, give it a press. I'm shaky today. We're going to give that a press, and then we're going to just sew it closed. You can hand stitch this closed if you want. I'm just going to machine stitch it because I'm okay with the stitches being visible, but you can totally hand stitch it, invisible hand stitch, and it'll look beautiful as well. But so you're just going to tuck those, like I said, tuck those seams in, fold it over, give it a press, and then sew it closed. And then I'm going to show you how to do a top stitch around the entire bag. So, and then we can move on to the rivets and the leather strap. So we have closed that gap now, and we are ready to put the lining inside of the bag. So we're just going to, again, push the lining in, kind of shake it down. And this is another reason why I wouldn't recommend flannel if you're brand new. It will stick to the batting and make it a little bit more difficult. So just keep that in mind. So we're just going to roll this down a little bit, like that. And I like to do it all the way around, just to get a nice clean. You can take off those stray little bits as you go. And I just like to roll it inside the bag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to my iron, and I'm just going to give it a quick iron because I like to. It just makes top stitching all the way around the bag a little bit easier after you've kind of rolled it in. So you can pull the lining down if you need to. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So we are going to, look how pretty that is so far, hey? Isn't that nice? We're gonna go over to the iron, and we're going to iron the seam down. And then what we're gonna do is take it back over to our sewing machine and just top stitch it all the way along here. Now you could use whatever stitch length that you want, a longer one, a shorter one. I wanna match my seams or my quilting here, so I'm gonna use a 3.5 because that's what I used for the quilting here. But you can use whatever you feel comfortable, and you can go 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch. I'm just gonna do a 1/4 inch because I'm fine with that, and it'll help keep the lining inside the bag from pulling out all the time, and it just cleans it up, makes it a nice finish. So we are going to go do that, and then we can start on placing our leather straps and the rivets, which I'm very excited about because this really cleans up the bag really nice. At this point, our bag is complete. So now we can add the leather straps on. So we have done this top stitch there. Just turned out really pretty. And then the liner is inside, and that is all complete and ready for the leather straps. Oh, another thing that I wanted to mention is that you're gonna wanna use at least a 40 or 30 weight polyester thread for bag making. So for totes and things like that, especially if you are sewing the handles down. But anyway, it is time to move on to the leather straps. So I do want to mention before we get too far into it, I'm going to grab my leather. So I still have to cut my straps out, but anyway. So the leather straps are 1 inch wide by 24 inches long, and I include all of the information in the pattern anyway. But you want to make sure that when we're just going to pretend that this is cut right now, it's the leather strip. I still have to do it, but you want to make sure that one strap goes on one panel. I hope that makes sense. So we would attach one end of the strip here, the strap, sorry, and then the other strip here. And you want to make sure not to twist it. But anyway, I'm going to show you that in a minute. We're going to move on. I'm going to get this cut and we can attach our straps. Here we have our straps cut out. They are 1 inch by 24 inches long. And then these here are the reinforcement patches that go on the back of your bag, so the inside, and they protect your bag, your fabric, from the rivet. So the rivet can sit on the leather. I recommend leather because it doesn't fray, and also it's a little bit stronger than, say, like denim or canvas or something that like that will fray over time. So I prefer leather because what we're going to do is we're going to punch the rivet through, and these are double cap rivets. So we're going to punch through one here and one here. So it's going to sandwich, and it's going to look like this, but your bag is going to be in there, obviously. So this is on facing this way, actually. So this faces the inside of the bag, and then the bag, and then your strap goes on the outside of the bag. So this is inside, this is outside, and then the rivets will go stack on top of each other. And you can mark that out before you put everything inside of your bag. That's what I recommend. So you can mark it out with a pencil, pen, I like a pen, or some chalk, whatever you have, and make your marks to where you want your rivets to go. And then we can get our rivets and do our punches and attach it to the bag. Okay, so we are now ready to install our rivets and our straps. So for this portion of the tutorial, you're going to need 2 straps and 4 reinforcement patches. Like I said, everything is in the pattern, so you can go and check that out and make sure that you have everything before we begin. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I have attached one side here so you get a visual of like what that looks like. I'm gonna zoom in so you kind of see. So for this one I used dark brown leather and an 8mm double cap rivet in the color black, just so you know. And then the inside looks like this. So we have our reinforcement patch on the inside, and we've lined that up with the strap on the outside. And we used a little bit of Elmer's washable school glue to kind of get everything to stay where you need it to stay while you're punching holes in. I love this stuff. I use it for everything. I was gonna say, you know, like that commercial about the hot sauce, you know. Anyway, so you will need all of that, and then the rivet kit. So I like this kit. It is budget friendly. I will say I only spent about $14 Canadian on it from Amazon, and again the link is in the pattern. But I'm fairly, like, this is a decent set for a beginner, especially if you are someone that doesn't make a ton of bags. It's nice to have it on hand. But I will say that the hole punch that comes with it is not the greatest. So you can totally upgrade that part of it by purchasing a separate one on Amazon, or even a rotary punch, which I have purchased, and those are amazing. So anyway, because this isn't the greatest quality, what you're going to want to do is punch both sides of the leather with this hole punch, because it will not go through no matter what you do. So, I mean, if you get lucky, and you can. Also, it does come it does come with the rubber and hammer, but because this is not the greatest and I wanted to make sure that I could get this done using everything in this kit for you so you didn't have to buy anything extra, I upgraded to a dollar store carpenter hammer and it will fray the end of your hole punch, just so you know, but that's what I did in order to get this to go through. So like I said, you're going to punch both sides of it because this isn't the greatest. But if you buy an upgrade, you're probably not going to have that problem. So the kit comes with an array of colors and different post sizes and cap sizes, and it also comes with the setter tool. So this is the setter. So this one is the 12 millimeter, and then that's the back of it, the top of it, and actually I think it came with a second one, but I might have lost that already. But anyway, so this smaller setter is the one that you're going to use in one of the posts that you choose. Okay, so let's go over post length quickly. So in order to determine the correct post length, so this is what they look like. I'm just going to grab one here so I can show you. So this is, can't quite grab, okay. So this is the cap end, right? And this is the post end. The post length is really important. So you want to make sure that all of your layers fit on the post and have 1/8 of an inch room at the top left over, okay? So if your layers are completely covering the post, then you know that you need a longer post. If you have more than 1/8 of an inch space at the top of the post left over after you've added all your layers, then you need to go down a post size, okay? So that's what they look like. And how we are going to install them is after we have the hole punched, we're going to go inside the bag and we're going to put the post in first and then the cap on top. Now the cap will click in spot. It'll hold it for you, but it will not set it. So you need to set it, and that's what this tool is for. You're going to use the setter after you've kind of like click the lid on, okay? Because you don't want it moving around at all. And I also bought this off of Amazon. You could use your I bet you could use, like your acrylic cutting board that you have in the kitchen, but I bought one of these. It's like a flexible, I think it's acrylic. Again, I will have the link, but I bought one. And what you want to do is you want to put it inside of the bag when you're punching your holes and setting your rivets, okay? So this is like the perfect little size. I thought it worked good. Okay, so you're also going to need your ruler because we're going to draw our lines on the bag to make sure that we are 5 inches on the inside and 3 inches from the top, okay? So how we're going to do that is we're going to grab our chalk pencil or a marker of some kind, and we're going to measure out. I'm going to smooth this all out of the way here, and we're going to measure out 3 inches down and 5 inches from the side. So I have 5 inches here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just gonna zoom out again. Sorry about that. Okay, so our 5-inch mark is here. So we want to line that to the side of the bag, and then we want to line up a 3-inch mark on the top edge of the bag, right? So we're just gonna move it on over a little bit. We're just gonna mark that out so we know where to put everything. So hopefully you can see those lines on my bag and where I lined them up. So the end line is where our strap will go, right? The end of the strap will hit there, and the line will go in the middle of our strap. So just line everything up so it's in the middle. Do you see that? So it'll look like that. You want to make sure that when you are setting the other strap, that your straps are not twisted, I'm just gonna zoom you out just a little bit more. So I'm gonna move that out of the way. So you wanna make sure that these straps are not twisted, and one strap goes on one side of the bag, okay? So after we've kind of drawn our line, what we wanna do is place everything. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to see where this lines up. Just hold it there in place. And then we're gonna take the reinforcement patch and slide it in and just feel where everything should go, right? And make sure that you're on the patch on the inside and on the outside. And what you're gonna do next is you're gonna take your Elmer's school glue, and we are just going to make sure that we're gluing the outside, not the inside of the patch. So we're just gonna make sure that your right side is facing. So when you put it inside, the right side of the leather is facing out, the pretty side, not this way, okay? So put the glue on the ugly side of the leather. And we're just going to play with the placement a little bit just to get it right, okay? And you can add a little bit of glue to the strap as well if you want. Whatever your comfort level is. Doesn't have to be perfect, remember? It should be fun. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to line up our strap to the middle of the line here. And we've drawn a line, remember? We've lined everything up, so it's 5 inches inside and 3 inches down from the top edge of the bag. And I've already drawn, I know you can't really see it, but I've already drawn where I want my rivets to go on the strap, okay? So I did that before. Hopefully I showed that in the previous recording that I have going on here. Okay, so after we've kind of glued that down and let it set for a minute, because we don't want it to shift around, we're just going to take this and put it on the inside of the bag and kind of line everything up. And you're going to feel where the end of your reinforcement patches and then the strap, and making sure that they are on top of each other. That's really important. And if you wanted to clean up the edge of the leather, I know they have really pretty cutting tools to do that, so you can go check those out as well. The one that I was looking at is it is called a half circle, or a half circle, I believe, or half round or something like that. And you can just cut off the edge to round your strap, but I kind of like the blunt part of the strap anyway. But there's lots of different things that if you get into it like I have, there's so many options. Okay, so after we have glued that, we're just gonna let it sit for a second, let it set, because we really don't want this to shift when we go to make our holes. So for my particular setup, I found that the 8mm worked really well. I know that a lot of people use polyester batting, which it has a higher loft. So that one worked well with the 10mm. But you're just going to have to play with it a little bit, because it really, your rivet post really depends on how thick your project is. All right, so I can't recommend, I can't recommend a perfect post without seeing your project and what exactly the materials that you've used. So that's why there's a variation. Today we have 100% cotton batting with 2 layers of quilting cotton, and that ended up, the post worked out to be an 8mm. Oops, keep on. Okay, so I'm gonna grab one of the black ones, the post and the cap, and I'm just going to set those aside. And I'm going to grab my hole punch and close this up so I don't dump it. Put it out of the way. And then we're going to slide our protector inside of the bag and placing all of your layers on top of it. Then you're going to grab your hole punch, and we're just going to start hammering. Okay, so I know that that has gone through the top, but it has not gone through the back leather layer. And you can pin it too. You can clip it in place if it's not glued as enough or whatever. I feel comfortable not clipping it, but I suggest you do that if you feel like you're, you know, struggle busting it. So do you see this? I'm going to pull this up to the camera here. You can see an indentation that we made at the front side of the bag, and that's why I said like this punch isn't the greatest. It comes in the kit. So what you're going to want to do is kind of flip it the other way, put your protector underneath everything, pull the bag the other side away a little bit, and then we're going to just punch the other side as well, right exactly where we see the punch from the other side. All right, now we have a punch that goes all the way through our bag. So now what we want to do is take the cap, or the double-sided cap with the post, and we're going to put it inside the bag and up through the hole to the outside of the bag, like so. Do you see that? Look at how perfect that is. It's 1/8 of an inch perfect. And this was an 8mm, by the way, with the setup that I have. But like I said, that really depends on the materials that you're using to make your bag. So you're just going to really have to try out that post. Okay, so now we want to put the top cap on, and it'll click a little bit. You hear that? And now it's secure. We don't have to worry about it falling off, but we still need to set it. So what we're going to do next is, again, put your protector in, lay everything out nice, make sure everything is like positioned correctly. Okay, so now we're going to take our setting tools, and this is the smaller setting tool that is a part of the kit, and this part of the setting tool has two sides to it. We're going to use the small side, so we're going to take that and put it inside of the bag and make sure that the cap is set right into the grooves of our setting tool. Then we're going to take the smooth end, well, it's like a dome end, it kind of has a little bit of a dome in there, and then we're going to set that on top of the cap, and grab our rubber hammer, and then we're just going to set the rivet. And if it's not tight enough, or if it's moving at all, you know that you haven't set it properly, but that worked really good. So we can remove our setter, and our rivet is done. So we're going to repeat that process for every one of the rivets on the bag, and there are 8 total. So 4 on the front, 4 on the back. And make sure that your strap is not twisted, because that really sucks, because removing the rivets if you've made a mistake is not a fun thing. So just keep that in mind. So again, we're just going to line up our patch at the back and make sure that it's nice and aligned. Put our protector underneath, and again, we're just going to punch out the hole. And like I said, because this punch is not the greatest, you're going to have to do both sides of the leather. And the more you do this, the more feel you get for it. So again, because, like I said, because this is not the greatest of punch, we're just gonna flip the bag, put the protector back down, and then again, we're just gonna look at that circle. It's barely going through the leather on the other side. Do you see that? Hopefully you can see that in the video. But you can see just like this outline, right, of where it should be. So you wanna make sure to lay everything out really nice, and then just put the punch right over top of that outline that you see. There we go. Flip it back over. And now that hole has gone all the way through, so we can add our rivet. Make sure you get the same color. And again, remember the post end goes inside of the bag up and through the hole. And then the cap end clicks in place on the top of the bag. Like that. And then we're going to set it. So again, we're going to use our special protector, I like to call it. Put that inside of the bag and then take our setting on the smaller end or the smaller side. Slide that in and make sure that that cap sits right into that indentation in the setting tool. And again, we're going to grab our small setting tool with the dome end over top of the cap with a rubber hammer. All right, so that is how you use your double cap rivets with your leather straps. Isn't that cool? So you could go back and you can trim these up, or you could make them prettier by getting leather cutting tools if you want, and make those edges nice and crisp. But I kind of like the rawness of it myself, but again, that is my preference. So you do you. And yeah, so you can move on to the other side of the bag and be all done. Congratulations. I'm so happy that you made this pattern. I have lots of other patterns in the shop with the same technique. Yeah, so go check them out. Thanks again. Bye now.